All right, what it is, what it do, what it look like. Running with WARR, getting it going on a sparkling Tuesday evening type of evening, make you want to be outside. And I'm hearing the fireworks already from the right. I could have bet Chris, you probably got. I'm gonna have to turn to the Sox game for right quick. I'm guessing they did something good. Chris, are you hearing me? Chris, I don't know what's up with Chris. Chris, brother, what's going on? Oh, this dude is frozen in time. Great start. Get to another show. Running with WARR, though. We'll try to get through this one as best as we can for the next hour or so. Chris Pennant, we'll see if his connection will allow him to stay on with us for the whole show. Stephen Gardner or Prisian Gardner will be on with us as well. Chris, are you doing better, man?
I switched over to the other connection. It seems like it's working better.
Okay, yeah, it looks like it so far. Let's hope we can get through the rest of the hour. All right. I'll just getting the intro going. Like I say, Stephen Prisian Gardner also joining us momentarily, and special guest Subria A. Whitaker from. Maybe you can help me out with this now, since you've been on their programming. Is it phonetically just Chicago, or is it CHGO?
It's CHGO. Janice told me because I asked her the same thing on Friday night. I was confused myself.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad we straightened out. So it is like call letters, so that's fine. But Subria Whitaker of the regular host of the Chicago Sky podcast, co-host along with Janice, and that's actually what our man here did on Monday. In Subria's stead. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that later as well, and probably the back half of the show will be more WNBA driven today. I did a little WNBA preview with my girl Stephanie from NBC Sports Chicago last week. Shout out to her. You can watch that after this if you haven't seen it yet on our YouTube page. But so we did a lot of basic WNBA talk there. Today, we probably just add on more to that talk. We could talk about in reflection of the first weekend. Now, of course, the Sky had a tough loss against LA, overtime loss. Chris was there, and we'll get into that as well as the breaking of the story of Diamond DeShields and her harrowing, injury, back procedure. This amazing story that came out over the weekend about what she had dealt with over the past couple of years regarding her back, and how it affected her. And we in real time we all viewing her a certain way, and it in some way sort of led to her being cast off even after winning a championship here in Chicago. But though she's landed well in Phoenix, and still a very talented player. But after with this story coming out, that everybody just really took everybody aside, and really really makes everybody root for her, I think, on a different level than even before. But like I said, we'll get into that as well, and do some NBA talk. The semifinals are in full effect, and from last week, I was sort of speaking a little bit like these series weren't going to be too competitive, or there was going to be a little bit lopsided in some ways, a couple of them in particular, but they're really looking to be very, the majority of them, 3 out of the 4, are tied at 2-2 right now. And it looks like, all three of them have a good chance of going at least 6, if not 7 games. We got a game going right now with Miami and Philadelphia. In that series, Miami, of course, took the first 2 games pretty easily, but, those games didn't feature Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid made his heroic return in game 3, and the series since then has really been in Philadelphia's hands. They come back and win the last 2 games to tie the series. And, tonight, though, I believe Miami has gotten off to the early lead. So, still a lot of competition left in these semifinal series. And we'll, go over that a little bit with Steven when he gets on. But I don't know, maybe we could start, since I got you here alone, Chris, with your experience from the past weekend, in the past few days or so, from watching the Sky game and everything live, the opener on Friday, to doing the sub thing on the Chicago Scott podcast on Monday. How's things been going for you? How's that whole experience been like over the past few days?
It's cool. I mean, it's. I don't want to say it's nothing out of the ordinary because I wasn't expecting to come on to the CHGO show. I appreciate Janice for giving me the shot, and Subria as well for being cool with that. So thanks to both of them. I'll say thanks to Subria when she comes on later. But it was unexpected. I think the game itself was. You never know what to expect going into the first game of the season, even with everything you talk about. What James K and I have talked about on the Skyhook. So it was good to see the team come out on the floor, to see the fan response, even to see the multitude of media that was present. I was talking to Janice about it yesterday. That's the most press I've seen at a Sky opener since I've been covering the team. And, that's due to a lot of different factors, mainly them being the prevailing champions. But still, it's cool to see. I'm okay with the fact that I didn't have a seat at the press table on Friday because I got there late. I wasn't able to get there for pregame just by circumstance. So I found a seat in the stands, and I was doing my thing from there. And one of the local Big 3 news anchors was out there too, and he came in presumably from another event, and he was looking for a seat. Cheryl raced out, bless her soul, was looking for a spot because she came from Bears mini camp up north, and there was a difficulty trying to find the space there. So I think it's as Chris and Marlo would say, it's one of them good problems that the Sky have right now. So it's been cool, even though the Sky came out on the short end Friday.
I don't want to derail us, Sandy, but have you checked out any of that new series, We Own the City?
No, I didn't even know about this. You gotta give me more info.
Oh man,
you're talking about the HBO, the Baltimore joint. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. I watched the first 2 episodes. I haven't watched this week's episode yet, but apparently there is a scene where Dookie and Marlo are both in it as cops. And Marlo, that's the shorthand, of course, for Jamie Hector.
Right.
He plays a homicide detective in the series. He's already been introduced, but this week they had a scene as well where Dookie was playing a patrolman, and he was in the scene as well. So it was really cool to see that. So I'm looking forward to watching. I might watch that tonight. But looking forward to seeing that.
That's dope. I had no idea. I saw the ads where Jamie Hector was on as a detective along with everybody else that I could recognize. It still bugs me out that my man who played O-Dog has had all these roles. He was on Barry, a show with Bill Hader, and now he's back in a Baltimore show. And it's wild, all the stuff that he did on The Wire as O-Dog, to see him playing a cop. It's all the jokes about in the universe, like Marlo went straight, couldn't deal with it, and so he got admitted to the police academy.
Right, you just fill in the blanks with the story. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite of course quite a few Wire alums in that show. It's pretty good so far, definitely as you would expect. But let's get Steve in there once again in the drive through with us. What's go what's going on, man? We're not hearing you.
Can you
There
hear
we
me now?
go.
Okay.
Yeah, what's going on, big dog?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, man? Kyle, I'm not in the drive-through, man.
I'm just messing with you, man.
For sure, for sure. You know
I know
the
you
drive-through.
a hard working man, so
Absolutely.
again appreciate you coming on right after your gig, man.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And we was
So,
just like I said, getting the show going a little bit. Subria Whitaker coming on momentarily. Once again, like I say, doing some WNBA talk. And we're gonna do like I guess we before we get on, we can get into some NBA stuff right quick. Um, given I sort of teased that given that most of these series, these semifinal series, have really tightened up. You got three of the series going at a 2-2. So you got pretty much a best of three scenario for Philly and Miami going forward, and Dallas and the Suns, which really looks like that series could be very much more competitive than expected going into it, and of course the Boston Milwaukee series, which looks like the most heated series of the playoffs so far. The way that they've been competing against each other, really old school sort of playoff intensity there. Steve. I just throw it to you, man. Out of those three series in particular, you know, after yesterday, it looks like Golden State, and especially with the news that Ja may not even come back for the rest of the playoffs, it looks like Golden State has that remaining series handled. Of the other three, what series is really standing out to you, or if all of them are, what do you think about the way that they're playing out?
honestly, man, as just a fan of basketball, independent of any biases or favorite players or favorite teams I might have, just the brand of basketball that's being played right now on this specific stage, with all the stars finally healthy and everybody's in the fold, outside of the John Moran news that we just received today. I mean, it's a fantasy land. It's like Christmas in the summertime at this point of the season. We got extremely competitive basketball being played, and like you said, three of the four series that we have left at the moment, and it seems like the three of those four they're still trending upward as far as the intensity and the just competitive spirits. The teams are growing to not like each other as they typically do, over the course of any 7-game series. And into that 3-game series phase, all of the adjustments being made by coaches, all of the adjustments in game planning and counters being used by coaches and players alike based off of scouting reports and everything, and all of the shared information that's going on over the past 4 games. It's just heaven right now. Honestly, if I had to choose one specific series, like I said, independent of my personal likings, I would say that Boston and Milwaukee series is living up to expectations and then some. The fact that
Mhm.
Boston started off the series rather slow, and then they got a counter from themselves, and then they got another counter from from the Bucks, and now they're back drawing even going back to Boston. I mean, what more can you ask for? That's like a short way of me putting it as far as which series I like most.
You got to give it up to for Horford, man. He's like 47 years old. He's out
we gotta
there.
we gotta stop this, man. Al Horford is not that old. He's just been in the league a while.
For sure.
I'm just saying, man. He has been in the league a long time. You can't. I mean, how can we expect him to go off like this at this point of his career and really help decide a series for the time being? Man, he's been balling, and a series where Giannis is dominating as usual, and there's all this rigmarole about how to officiate him and all this stuff. He's stepped up, and been a force in the post on the other side. And of course, Tatum has done his thing as well. Boston is just a depressive team. I really like their will, and for them to however you feel about Game 3, they didn't necessarily allow that to overtake their feelings as a team. They went ahead and handled their business in Game 4. They locked the series back up, and now they have a chance, with 2 more games in Boston still to play to take that series. So, I don't know how it's going to play out, but like I say, Boston has again proved themselves to have a certain medal that is worthy of possibly getting into the Eastern Finals.
Yeah, people have been given. A lot of friends of mine really gave Boston more credence than I did. They said that had Brown not been injured, that I think it was last year that they would have gone to the finals. And I was like, I don't know what y'all are talking about. I've never given Boston that much credence. I never have, but they are proving it. They're flat out proving it. There's really nothing else you can say. Jason Tatum is that dude. He took that Mamba mentality to heart, point blank, period. And Al Horford is, I think some people see him as a serviceable big man,
Right.
but he has such a varied offensive game, and he has veteran savvy for a guy who's never been a great leaper. He's always had to rely to some degree on guile, trickiness, and the little things that get you in a good position to score that keep you in starting position on rosters. So that's why part of the reason I was like, yo, gotta stop calling Al Horford super old just because he's been ever present in the NBA.
That's an easy. Like I said, I take the easy shot, but that's a great point, Chris. And my ribbing of him stems from that, where when you look at him, like you say, he's a mostly under the rim player, and whether it's his defense or his offense, he makes ways and he makes do in certain ways that you wouldn't expect. He's like 6. They measure him like at 6'9". He's probably like 6'7", 6'8", or something. But he defends guys bigger than him. He keeps a presence in the paint that is always effective, and he's able to go out and score. He can bring you range with his offense at times. He's just he's a winner. And you go back to his whole career, going back to his college days, he's a winner. And for him to be on the team, like say he was introduced on a team with Joakim Noah and all these guys from back in the day in Florida, and he's still doing his thing in important playoff games in 2022. That's wholly impressive.
Yeah.
No doubt.
He's of that. So of course there's different types of role players, and a lot of veterans, once they get to that latter end of their career, they kind of make a transition into that role player phase. He's that level of role player now that raises the floor of his team based off of his intangibles, and not to even mention the skill and the, just like you said, the veteran presence that he is to a team, and confidence and easiness and steadiness. Like the Celtics don't have like a traditional point guard on their roster, so a lot of times they rely on him doing things above the arc, with whether it's a dribble handoff, resetting the offense to get the players in positions that they need to be in to be most effective. And my favorite thing about him is just the fact that he's what I like to call a connector for their offense. So role players on teams across the league, they have like that one player outside of their peak players, their top premier players, that's able to help things get to where they need to get to. So let's say, for example, Marcus Smart starts to play a pick and roll. It doesn't work out. He hits Al Horford on a short roll. He's that player that's able to then get the ball to a Peyton Pritchard or Grant Williams or Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum as that connecting piece to get it where it needs to be, to then put them in their most advantageous spot. And the same thing goes for their defense. A lot of the reason they're able to run that ever-switching defense that they do, even with Robert Williams in the lineup, is because he's so versatile, as versatile defensively as he is offensively, and being able to guard 1 through 5 on any given possession and switch with guys on the fly, scram switch, do all these crazy different things, all with the IQ and acumen to keep guys, in alignment and sticking to whatever scheme or game plan they have in execution. So all that to say, he's the peakest of role players that you could have at this point in the season, and it proved itself in then some last night with him, putting up career high numbers in a must-win game for the Boston Celtics, the most important game of the season to this point. What more can you say?
Definitely. But as revelatory as you can maybe argue that Boston has been, they still were the higher seed in the series coming in, and with the home court advantage and stuff. Right quick, looking at the other two series where you have lower seeded teams trying to make upset, who do you think is in a better position? And I say that again with looking at Philly down about 14 in the second quarter, and in Miami in Game 5. The answer's probably there already, but Dallas is putting a bit of pressure on Phoenix, and do we think that they have a chance to maybe pull the upset, or is Philly still? Do you think maybe in a better position?
Go ahead, Steven.
Okay. I feel like Miami had the higher seed, so it wouldn't necessarily be an upset if they handled their business. That's actually who I picked to win this series in 6.
Not that saying, I'm asking from the point of view of overseas, Philly and Dallas.
Yeah, I would say Philadelphia has the better chance because they have.
Okay.
Not only do they have the best player in the series dynamic heavily in their favor, but they also potentially have the second best player in the series on any given night, depending on how you rank Jimmy Butler and present-day present-day James Harden. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, that's a high level of variance depending on which James Harden you get. But the consistency in Joel Embiid being so dynamic and garnering all the attention of any scheme that Eric Spoelstra and company can draw up, and them potentially being rendered helpless as far as stopping him or even containing him when Joel Embiid is on his game, they have the best puncher's chance, and their puncher's chance is pretty much as good as any higher ranked seed in any series at this point in the playoffs. So I feel like they're the ones with the best chance. And on top of that, their shooters and ancillary players are playing at their peakest of peaks, more so than they had at any point in this season prior. So I would definitely go with the Sixers as far as the upsets go.
Okay, Chris, you want to add to that, or you want me to bring in Subria?
No. I'll keep it quick. I agree with Steven just because Philadelphia hasn't beat back, and I think for once, I can't remember who said it. I want to say Stephen A. Smith, but I might be wrong. But I know guys were saying that Joel being out there helps elevate the Sixers, even if he wasn't at full strength. And I think some people were writing that off, but it's true. There's a truth to that. And just having him playing, even if he's not at, when you come into the playoffs, maybe at best at 80, 85%, having him out there helps elevate the team. And it's not like it were a bad team without him. On the other side, Dallas has a lot of good role players along with Luka, Jalen Brunson. Good to see him really stepping up and making his mark on the playoffs. But I want to say the Mavericks just because I think that Luka has to pull off a heroic performance in order to elevate to that upper tier of players like the top 5 or 6 in the league in the playoffs because he's had those first round exits. So even if he's going up against the favorites for the title, he's got to at least take it to 7. And if he knows that, I think that's something that superstars do. They know when they have to pull the damn horse and the cart and the carriage and everything along with them. And if that's what he can do, you got to shoot better than 32% from the arc. But if that's what he can do, then I would put money on Dallas. It would be tough. That's why I'm saying the Sixers have a better shot, but I would be very pleasantly surprised if Dallas beat Phoenix.
That's well said, guys. I think both series are going 7. I think they both going 7. So I don't know if either one of them could pull it off on the road in that last game, but I think they're both going to get pushed to that limit. So we'll see how it goes. But now let's bring in our special guest for the evening, Subria.
Subria's on the road too.
Yeah, I'm saying, man, this is what happened when you try to do a show when it's 80 degrees out in Chicago. I can't keep nobody inside. What's good? What's good, Subria? Where the party at?
I'm actually in Atlanta.
Oh, you're in Atlanta. Okay, well.
Yes. So I just left Indiana, came to Atlanta because the Sparks played the Dream tomorrow, and as I'm sure you know, this is the first time Erica Wheeler will be playing her former team as well as Kennedy Carter. So it was just one of those games. When tickets went on sale, I immediately copped them because I knew I absolutely had to be there.
Okay, that's what's up. I'm glad. That's good. I'm glad you could jet set like that. So I just got a. Oh, well, we gotta see how the signal is in the Uber or whatnot. But hopefully she could rejoin us soon. But yeah, it's Subria Whitaker. We'll get her back on momentarily. Going through the motions here, but okay. Let me try again here. Okay. Subria, yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay.
Okay. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Well, I didn't know you were going to be, in in the middle of an Atlanta trip coming on the show. So I really appreciate you making the time for us.
Oh, yeah, no problem. And honestly, it's not even that I'm in the middle of it. It's just Atlanta is one of those places that you think you're going to have a schedule and you just really don't. But I'm pulling up to the hotel literally right now. So it's
I think Donald Glover would agree. Atlanta is as much of a state of mind as an actual place. So, but I got a couple of pressing questions for you just to start off. This is my first time really talking to you, so I'm not gonna get into your business much or anything, but I kind of know the answer to this first one, but I gotta ask, just how much did you think Chris messed up filling in for you on Monday?
Oh wow.
Oh, I actually did catch the first half because that is when I was driving from Indiana to Atlanta. But I think he provided a very good perspective of somebody that was there, and I'm one of those people that, if you weren't with me shooting in the gym, I can't even talk. But I appreciate him because he was really there shooting in the gym. I know exactly what he was talking about, referencing 2014. I started covering the Sky in 2011, so I know, and I always will give my hat off to somebody that has been there and is a true fan or somebody that's really covering it for the right reasons. So I enjoy it. If I had to pick one person to fill in for me, it would be him, and so I'm glad he did a great job.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you, Chris. You definitely are true to the women's basketball movement, and it was great to see you on the show. So,
hey, Subria, I sincerely appreciate that, knowing how long you've been with the team and the league in general. So, thank you.
Well, thank you.
But tell us a little bit about your journey and your development as a follower, reporter, an influencer, in this level. I mean, in the world of women's sports and in women's basketball. How have you got to this point? You have your organization grow the game, as well. You know, what has fed you and motivated you to get to this point in your life?
Yeah. So I first discovered the WNBA back maybe like when I was in the 8th grade, and I was watching it and I was just like, how do I not know about this? Like, I'm kind of like watching Disney Channel, like on Sister Sister, you kind of see Lisa Leslie made an appearance, and back then, like, they were on Martin. So I've seen little references to the W, but no one ever really introduced it to me. And I was kind of offended. And I'm like, why aren't you all like shouting to the rooftops more about this great league with phenomenal basketball and great players? So I'm one of those people that when I like something, I dive right in. So by the time I was a sophomore in high school, I was doing my math studies project on the WNBA and just the marketing and how many people were familiar with certain teams, certain players, and stuff like that. So, I mean, I kind of dropped off a little bit in college just because I went to school in Champaign, which is like 2 hours from Chicago. So I wasn't really able to follow, like covering it like I was in high school with True Star Magazine. So I wasn't able to go to many of the games. And of course, back then there was no league pass. So you really couldn't watch it if you weren't local. And then when I came back, Brittany Sykes is someone that I met when she was a McDonald's All-American when I was covering them for True Star. So we met in 2012, and then she got drafted in 2017. So of course I'm like, okay, I have to support Brittany, I have to see what she's doing. And next thing I know, I was in Atlanta. I just remember being in Atlanta when they were on this amazing run, because I previously interned for the Hawks. And the Dream and the Hawks used to be in the same building, and I was on the floor of the Dream more than I was on my own floor working for the Hawks. So when they made it to the to the semis and they were playing Washington, I was changing flights and extending hotel stays like every time they won a game. And and like me and Brittany had kind of talked about certain things, and so she kind of saw like, okay, you're serious. Like when you say you are dedicated to the WNBA, you really mean it. And I had just had the opportunity to have a conversation with her about just brands and the things that I felt like people were missing out on when it came to marketing players. So last year she brought me on as her manager. So I've had the opportunity to kind of work on the business side of things since I did, get a degree in communications and then sports management and went to law school. And then last year, people have seen me over the years. Like, okay, Subria, like you're the one person I know. Like if everybody knows me, they know at least one person that they know is a W fan. So people were like, you did this for like ever. I want to see what's to it. And so I was able to bring like 40 out to our first game, and then over 100 people to the next group game that we did. And I said, okay, there's something to this. People are starting to believe. People are starting to see it. And then the sky just took off and just took it to a completely different level. So that was how Grow the Game was born. And so after that, I got, tapped into the CHGO Sky podcast. So it's like I'm a manager of a player, running a nonprofit organization dedicated to women's sports, and then, covering it with CHGO. So I wear a lot of different hats when it comes to the W. Yeah,
that's what's up. Yeah, you deserve the golf clap there. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a thing that Keller Regional Gifted Center alumni do. We do a lot, and we do it very well. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens on 108th Street. That's what comes out of there.
I'm glad you're able to shout that out, Chris.
I don't. I mean, like I've said it probably 3 or 4 times since I've seen Subria live, but I really do. Like, not to derail, but it's so cool to meet somebody that I didn't go to school with personally who came out of that same school, because she knows being in that school with a lot of different people from the South Side, plopped in the middle of Mount Greenwood. You might not get it when you're 7 or 8, but then you get older and you realize what you came out of, and it makes it, to me, honestly, it makes it more special. And I always have love for people who came up in the same places I do anyway. So knowing that Subria is doing infinitely more things than me makes it even better. So that's why I always talk about it.
But
just let me know when you're tired of it.
To that degree, I should shout out True Star too. I've done a little work for them in the past, and So you were doing that as a student, huh, Subria?
Yeah, I joined True Star kind of like, what he was just talking about. I joined True Star because my cousin was in it, and he was at Julian, and I saw them doing stuff, and I'm like, wow, like, you're doing, like, this is a real job, like a job. And so I saw that one of the co-founders went to Morgan Park, and I emailed her, and I'm like, hey, fellow Mustang here, and right off that, she's like, okay, hired. Like, come in next week. And I got there. My first cover story was Jerry Hilson. And then they saw, like, I kept talking about sports. Like, all I wanted to do was talk about sports. And they let me kind of start up the sports program there. And it just took off. And it just allowed me to do a lot of different things. So, yes, you're right. And without True Star, I probably would not be here.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Definitely shout out to True Star. And, speaking of shouting, there was also a tweet I saw about apparently you were caught yelling something during the opening game on Friday, and I couldn't discern what it was. Would you mind? Apparently you were on the broadcast and everything, but what were you actually yelling during that heated moment of the Sparks Sky game?
Okay, so if you go back and listen to it, all I'm saying is "Let's go, Brittany." It's just very aggressive because she, like, right before I start yelling, I think she gets a block or something. Like, anytime she does anything, like, she could dribble the ball really well, and I'd be like, yeah, Brittany, you better dribble that ball. But, like, she did something really amazing. I was super excited, and naturally I just kind of yelled. And then everybody in the section where I was at was kind of like, okay, do you know her? And I'm like, yes, I do. And then the person, like the producer who has the camera, because I'm getting text messages and tweets like, we can hear you on a broadcast. And I'm like, no, you can't. You're lying. And then he was like, actually, the mic is right there. Like, the mic is taped up to the side of the basket, and that's where I was sitting. He's like, yeah, the mic is right there. They absolutely heard you. So then last night, I went back to check, and you can absolutely hear me yelling, "Let's go, Brittany."
I think I know the block you're talking about too, because that was an incredible play. It was like, man, from my perspective, it was like, come on, man, because even with the turnovers, and we'll probably talk about this in a second, even with the unforced turnover errors, Los Angeles, especially in the second quarter, was getting their hands on all the passing lanes, disrupting successful actions from the first quarter. And Brittany and Jordan Canada were just hellions on the defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go into that starting off the season, Sky, have they're not complete again at the beginning of the season. They don't have their complete roster available to them, but still most of the major players were there. The whole lifting, the whole franchise, the arena, definitely at a heightened level, given that they're coming off of the championship season and everything. But the Sparks are giving them trouble in recent times. Last year, especially last year, I think they beat them a couple times. No, there was one overtime game last year that really mirrored a lot like that game on Friday, where the Sparks sort of stole it towards the end there from the Sky. But either one of y'all, you want to just give your thoughts on the game and how it played out. Nothing. Judging from last year, you can't really draw too much from a season opener at this point. Definitely, we know that. But what do you sort of draw or judge from this opener? Does it sort of speak to how maybe there's more of a revival in LA and the possibility of them becoming a contender once again from the West Side sort of thing?
I mean, well, like you said, like, I think LA beat them both times. It was like a little, not necessarily a week, but I remember when it was kind of like back to back, and I think they got it both times, and then everybody's like, well, okay, well, Candace isn't playing so cool, and then this time it's like, yeah, we added a finals MVP, but we're also missing, Koss. So I don't, like you said, it wasn't really a true reflection of probably what they're going to be like in the season. But I do think that we should note that LA has found answers, and you have to think like 2 of their players are gone, and they've added like what, 3 at minimum, like 4. So just the fact that they're able to do that, you know, so early in the season, because they did go on to beat Indiana, and so we'll see what happens tomorrow. But I do think like people, they're coming up on people's power play list. So I definitely think that. But really, I just think that the Sky need to stop wearing those blue jerseys. I've been saying it for the longest, and every time they wear those jerseys, they lose. So I'm just gonna blame the jerseys and say if they had a black jerseys, they probably would have won.
Okay, the black jerseys though. I like the Chi-Town jerseys though. You think they should get rid of them, huh? Because you think they're unlucky?
Yeah. So I remember last year during the playoffs, like it kind of got like the team started noticing because people were talking about it on Twitter. Specifically, I want to say Sky Show Shy talked about how like, okay, wait a minute, every time they wear these jerseys, they lose. So if you go back and look at them in the playoffs, they stopped wearing them because the players too realized it, and they're like, okay, whether it's true or not, you know, like at the end of the day, we have lost every time we won them, so we're just gonna stop. And then look what happened. So
and they clinched in the black jerseys too, didn't they? Yeah.
If this is not a true indicator that those blue jerseys are bad luck, then I don't know what is. But so far, it's the jerseys.
I never thought about that. That's funny. That's funny though. But I think it's a marketing. That goes into marketing. I would love for people to, you know, be able to proudly wear any sort of Sky apparel, but you know, if it's that unlucky, I don't know. Maybe we have to stay away from it. You know,
I'm a fan of hyper self-awareness from fans and players of the team alike, just because it shows how like tapped in each entity of the entire team itself is of itself. And as you said, Kyle, you see what they did when they wore the black jerseys and when they didn't wear the blue jerseys, pretty much what they got done last season. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it is what it is. You know, I think we'll see how they are when the whole team is there, when KFC is in effect, and you know, we'll just have to play it out. Maybe we need some more data. You know, we need another season of data. You know, with the jerseys. You know, I maybe let's not be harsh yet. Throw the baby out with the bathwater. But anyway,
that was a very statistics class answer. I like that, man. I like that.
Right. But you talk about.
Could I say something real quick about the first game?
Go ahead.
So it was, for one thing, it was just refreshing to see them back on the court and to see like the energy in general around Chicago. They've been picking up steam. Of course, after last season when people started picking up late that, oh, this team is pretty good. Oh, they got Candace Parker. Oh, they have a black coach. Like this is different. It's unique. It's pretty much what Chicago's been wanting, but they've been going to the wrong places to look for it as far as what the professional teams are offering. So it was refreshing to see that and to see just the overall attention and energy that they've been receiving from, like I said, Chicago as a whole. I also liked what I saw from Dana Evans. She talked a lot about how she would typically take that first handful of minutes in the rotation, sitting on the bench and watching Courtney Vandersloot do her thing, and just kind of pay attention to, okay, they're playing the screens this way. Okay, she's jumping on her left hand. I wonder what she's gonna do with me when I come in the game. To transition, and of course it's not gonna be full time, but playing with her in the starting lineup and seeing that cohesion and chemistry that they've built up and being able to play, and also with her being able to hold it down independent of each other, which is one of the biggest entities of the championship run from last season, was her being able to basically hold down the fort when Flutie would take her rest. But seeing Dana be able to not just hold it down, but extend leads to the extent of having, 17 in the third quarter and having a career high in points, rebounds, and points, steals, and assists, applying pressure defensively on Jordan Canada pretty much the whole length of the floor, getting deflections and steals all over the place, on ball and it help. just like seeing her growth in just one game alone, that was just extremely reassuring for me because she's gonna be again one of the major X factors for this team, supplementing everything that the starters do and then adding to that in her own unique way. Also, Emma Meesman, seeing what she's bringing to the team, again adding to the overall versatility that all of the top players on the Sky have, and seeing how her dynamic is going to mesh and mold with what was already there. Of course, KFC wasn't there, and a few others weren't there, but just seeing what she can bring to the table, and seeing how easily she's kind of just meshing into what James Wade has this team doing, it was all just really reassuring. And I have no doubt that this team will be able to avenge themselves and potentially repeat as champions again, based off of that alone.
Definitely, Dana was definitely very impressive in that opener, and definitely that should be a good sign to see that they, like you say, Stephen, that they will have that sort of playmaking ability coming off the bench at point guard, not have to have so much weight on Vandersloot, to create an offense, so they could, come at you in different ways with that. But I want to jump right quick. We're not gonna keep you for too long, Subria, but just give your thoughts a little bit on the league as a whole. I got in front of me, power ranking from the SB Nation website, women's basketball website. About a week before the season, they had the Sky as the top team in the league, of course, coming off the title. Connecticut, they had at number 2, Seattle at number 3, and the Aces at number 4, and Phoenix Mercury at 5. What do you think about that sort of ranking, of a power ranking coming into the season? And if you would rearrange those teams or add anybody else in that top 5, basically, what are the teams do you think you see as the biggest threats to the Sky and them trying to repeat this year?
Definitely the Aces. I think they gave us a hard time all last year. I think they always give us a hard actually, but to see I love Becky Hammond. Like, I have her jersey. I can't wait to go to that game because I will be there, like, with a Sharpie asking for this autograph. But I just love her. I've always loved her as a player. And I know they talk a lot about, like, Bill saying that Asia couldn't shoot threes, and now Asia's shooting threes. So to have developed that in Asia already being a problem, and I mean, she had, like, 15 rebounds and, like, a impressive number of rebounds to go with her points. Like, she had a double-double, like, huge double-double. So I'm definitely going to say that I will put them as 2 because, I mean, I'm sorry. I just can't fear Connecticut after last year. I really thought we were going to lose that series. We really should have lost that series. I'm sorry. Like, you had Coach of the Year, MVP, most improved. Like, you had everything, and you lost. So that doesn't really scare me. And although they do have Courtney Williams back, unfortunately, that still just doesn't scare me. So I will move them down. Seattle, I mean, yeah, fear Jewel, fear Breanna Stewart, but they don't really scare me too much either. And Phoenix absolutely doesn't scare me. So, I mean, like, you saw what happened.
Do you think Phoenix is in a tough? Of course, they're in a tough spot without Brittany.
Yeah.
How much do you think that's going to affect them going throughout? As that plays out throughout this season.
100%. Like, I mean, like, to me, Brittany Griner's my best player in this league. Like, so to lose that and rely so heavily on her, because all you got to do is she posts up in the paint and you just give her the ball and you'll be fine. Like, that's pretty much a guaranteed bucket. So to lose that
safety valve.
Yeah, I just really don't know how they're gonna replace that. I mean, yeah, they added Diamond, and I've always said, like, Diamond and Kyle were, like, basically the same player. So if Diamond could tap into that and really get that out of her, then I think she could help them. But I mean, you just can't replace BG, unfortunately. So I think they're gonna have to work really, really hard to figure something out.
Well, they bring in Tina Charles too. I mean, so you look at, I guess a Twin Towers type situation. They were trying to build for themselves, but you don't, you lose one of those in the meantime because of the unfortunate happenings in Russia. What if there's some way that they get that team together the way that they want it, by the end of the year, do you think that will make a difference? To have both of those players that doing their thing.
So I think that like Chicago, like if you ask maybe who were Chicago's like franchise players throughout the years, as much as like Vanderquist have been integral in everything, I think they've always kind of been team players, and nobody would ever really say it was like them versus everybody else. And so I say that because I think when you start adding great players who like known for carrying other teams and put them together, you're going to end up with a Los Angeles Lakers situation. So I don't really think that, like, to me, Tina is somebody who likes to put teams on her back and go crazy. And I don't think that works when you also have a Diana and a Skylar who also like to put teams on their back and try and go crazy, because you're not, like, they're so focused on being that player. You can't have three that players, So I don't know.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, hopefully they prove me wrong, because I just don't see it.
I mean, when I was thinking about that, I was thinking when you mentioned that, Subria, because I know that you have a point. We see it in professional basketball all the time, especially in this day and age. One, with the W still being a league of 12 teams, where you can have top quality players, at least probably two on every team if you do it right. And in the NBA, where a lot of players have started to kind of group up. But when the Mercury won in 2007, they had Diana and they had Cappie Pondexter on that same team. It wasn't necessarily a third player who was going to like take the rock and be like, everybody clear out, but they had two top quality players who learned to coexist.
And I feel like,
oh, go ahead.
I feel like for the Mercury, this was, having Tina Charles in the fold was kind of a way for them to rest and kind of taper back and manage Diana's minutes throughout the season, to a point where she won't be in the situation she was last season, where she was heading into the playoffs with a ton of injuries. She missed a few games down the stretch, if my memory serves me correct. And then she was on the injury report for every game pretty much after the opening round. And there was a question as to whether she was going to be good enough to finish. She really wasn't at her best of. She wasn't at the best of her talents because of her health. So if they were able to kind of taper that back and kind of manage her throughout the season, adding Tina Charles helps them add a piece that can always step up and be that third option or potentially second option at any given point. And then the same thing goes for in the playoffs, where Diana can rest and always play a Mariano Rivera role and be their closer, fresh and healthy. All those little things kind of adding up over the course of the season definitely sways and helps play into their favor. And then, of course, it was unexpected, but with Brittany's unfortunate situation, having a player of that caliber to be able to step into that role in a way, kind of, it helps and kind of balances itself out in that sense. So good on them for adding her, but I definitely agree with you that it could definitely be like an overkill type situation when all of those pieces are in the fold at the same time. But we'll see about it.
I mean, we saw that in the Olympics. Like you think if you pick all the best players of the W, we would have a great team. And granted, we won, yeah, but that team looked terrible. That Olympic team that we just had looked a hot mess. And I don't think that's gonna fly. Like, if you took maybe that team and like a team of alternates, like two like Olympic teams from all of the talent in the U.S., I don't think that team would have probably made it out. Like, I really don't. But like I said, I guess we will see.
I want to throw out before we wrap up this part of the segment, let you go, Subria.
Why you keep trying to kick me off the show?
I didn't know.
Subria said, I'm staying on all night. Said I'm here all night. I ain't even going to the game.
Hey, excuse me.
I'm just messing with you.
Nah. But I want to throw another preseason ranking out to y'all. ESPN put out a list of who they thought was the top 25. These can bring about conversations in some of the worst ways. With NBA, definitely with NBA list. But I want to get y'all opinions with this W list. Top 25 players in the league, and at number 1 they had Breanna Stewart. Number 2, Jonquel Jones. Number 3, Aja Wilson. Number 4, Sylvia Fowles. Number 5, Skylar Diggins Smith. And going on, Jewel Lloyd. Courtney Vandersloot is the top Sky list at number 7. Tina Charles at number 8. Candace Parker at number 9. And Enrique Ogunwale at number 10. It looks like you're not satisfied by that list.
You honestly could have stopped at Skylar, but to say Enrique, you absolutely can stop right there. To me, whoever wrote this list, I can tell that they probably just started watching the W within like the last couple of years. Like, there's no way you get that far and not mention a Cappy Pondexter, a Cheryl Swoops. Like, you just don't.
It's just for the season.
Oh, this season?
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, I heard that vitriol. I was like, woo. But you wouldn't have Skylar at number 5?
Enrique, I'm sorry, Enrique don't belong on that list. I don't even know.
Anywhere not the top 25 in the league.
No, she doesn't belong anywhere on that list. And I definitely.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I definitely don't. I don't know if I would put, like, I would have to think really hard about who else will go on there. But, like, if I have to put Skylar on there, I'm probably going to put her at, like, 25.
Wow.
I know we don't have a lot of time to, like.
Who's a player who you would say has been wholly underappreciated in the league, who you think, maybe has the chance to shine, get more light shine on them this season? But regardless of think in your opinion, you think they need more light shine on.
I think Kai's getting it. I think we saw that. It's like, okay. So look, like Candace Dupree, right, was in the league last year. She hasn't been picked up by a team yet, but she also hasn't like officially retired. I think she gets so disrespected to be someone who's still on like all-time leader type boards. But like those are the two I could probably get off the top of my head. And of course I'm gonna say Brittany Sykes. Duh. So I just want her to get more respect, because I mean if you go back and look at like the last, like the Sky game, I went back and read the media notes, and if you go to where it says like the Los Angeles notes, it talks about both times when to get the lead, it was Brittany, and she gets a lot of love for her defense, but she is truly a two-way player. To like have as many points as she has in double figures and almost 10 rebounds, and then she could add 5 steals or blocks in a game easy. I really would like to see her get more respect.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, I want to get into some of my other topics that I got on my rundown, and I guess one of the big stories from this weekend was the reveal of Diamond DeShields through ESPN and Outside the Lines show about her, really a incredible situation she got into, a back, had I guess what was it, a cyst or
a tumor?
Yeah, tumor. Not cancerous, but still a tumor in a very bad spot, pretty much on her spine, and she had to get that tumor taken out. It was done early in 2020, and this was something that she kept entirely to herself. It winds up being a situation where she has the procedure done right before the pandemic and everything shuts down. So you wound up having, her next games after her procedure being in the bubble, the wubble, down in Florida later that year, and she really had a tough time of it. Didn't finish that season with the Sky, and a lot of people at the time were looking at what was really up with her, and the conventional thought, because it was all that we knew, was that she was having issues supposedly with her knee. But as it was as she put it herself over the weekend, sometimes it's more than a knee, and it was like I say, something that really almost threatened her whole career. And the video of her, I want to show a little bit of this video from YouTube, of her, having these seizures or whatnot, these, not being able to control her body in the wake of the procedure to get the tumor out of her. It's just really, really incredible visuals, and the story itself was amazing, and really just I think it wrenches. I use the word wrench my heart, thinking about what she was going through, and the fact that it sort of played into her role changing as a Sky player. We were talking. I remember talking at the beginning of the 2021 season with James and you, Chris, about possibilities of her being an MVP candidate. And, that didn't play out. She winds up by the end of the year sort of being overshadowed by other players on the team, by Candace definitely, by KFC, who Copper did so much to assert herself especially in the postseason. And, Diamond was able to get that satisfaction of being a world champion as part of the team, but she wasn't on the court at the last second, and that was part of the story as well. Her sort of thinking, I should have, imagining herself to be on the court at that last moment and have that moment, but it wasn't meant to be. And part of it, big part of that draws back to what she had to deal with physically. So, giving it to you guys, like, what were you guys' thoughts on just the reveal of that story, and what does it make you think about, Diamond overall, and how, what do you take away from all that?
I mean, my first thoughts were, wow, I wish she had decided to tell people, because I think she got a lot of just flack from everybody. And yeah. I mean, it's easy to say, like, you don't know what someone is going through, right? But to be an athlete on a team like the Sky, or just in the league of a so small league in general, it's kind of like, well, typically we would know, right? Because then that would be part of what comes out on the injury report, or just that it's just not, I don't think it's typical to not disclose something like that it's clearly affecting your ability to play, and then people would know that that's how they're judging you, as opposed to just thinking, oh, something's off with Diamond. Like, it would be very different. So I wish she had shared it, but obviously she did things when she wanted to, how she wanted to, and I respect her for that. But I also kind of wish, like, Chicago could have been able to show her more love before she left, knowing that. But hopefully she turns it around, and like, she's able to continue her story and get another championship one day where she can actually be on the court during the final seconds, and then it'll make a great part 2.
I was talking to Janice about this yesterday, and I haven't had the chance to talk to James about it on the Skyhook yet. But we were watching the games in 2020, knowing that something was wrong, and then last year, knowing that it couldn't have just been a knee injury. It's not hockey, right, where they specifically, keep injuries vague because it's a contact sport and other players might target the injured player. But at the same time, it was somewhat mystifying, I think, just because when it was obvious that Diamond was not the same Diamond, but a lot of people were going by, like you said, Subria, the injury report. And if it was, whether it was just something, at the time we didn't know, in my mind, whether it was just something like a mental recovery or just getting back used to being her full self that we saw in 2018 and 19, we knew it wasn't the same. And I think, not to James' discredit, I think he was going by the injury report the same way we were, just that something, she had lost something. But when I saw the story come out, it's a bad thing to say I felt validated, but having seen so many people kind of write it off as maybe she just doesn't have what we thought she had, or the injury was more severe than we were initially told. It was validating in that respect because we all saw what Diamond could do. I said this, and I will still say this until my dying breath. The block she had on DeWanna Bonner in the 2019 playoff game was one of the most impressive and beautiful things I've seen on a basketball court. It was like she got dropped out of the sky on Elvis night, and she came out and blocked that ball. It was like Pippen blocking Aguirre in 91. It was almost the exact same play, and I won't ever forget it. And that's why I'm hoping that she is, at some point, if not already fully recovered, so we can see that player play again. I'm happy she's in Phoenix. I'm happy that she was able to say this, and I honestly agree to some degree of her saying she didn't want it used against her, because it's sports, and to a greater degree, it's life in this day and age. People, you'll say, "Man, I've been depressed over the last few weeks," and there'll be a lot of people who come out and support you. There'll be a lot of people who say you need to shake that shit off, because the response is not going to be wholeheartedly positive. Even in something like that, there will be people who say, my brother's cousin's friend had a tumor on his spine. He was back playing in like 2 weeks. Some bullshit like that. I think that the way that she's come up from North Carolina to Tennessee to the WNBA, even before that as a child of a major league baseball player, she has set herself apart by need and by external need and by internal need. And so it makes sense that she went about it the way that she did. And from a person who to some degree is similar, I can't fault her for that.
Yeah, definitely. Steve, you want to add anything?
Yeah, not too much, but you guys pretty much hit on everything that encapsulates what Diamond is. Of course, we got the best wishes for her, in her future endeavors now that she's with the Phoenix Mercury. But kind of even independent of the story itself, I was always a fan and appreciative of, without the knowledge that we have now, just the never-ending motor and the activity and the energy that she always brings to the court, not just to the team from the sideline cheering on her teammates, but that she also puts forth on the court. You can see the level of activity and just overall energy and enjoyment of the game that she brings out of every other player on the court that's in the same jerseys. And a lot of people talk about leadership being putting up points or doing it in key moments or dictating and talking to people. Energy and the way that you can infect your team with it to uplift and bring a team to a higher level of play, that's leadership in itself as well. And from that respect, she's one of the biggest leaders in the W and the biggest leaders in sports in general, because she has that infectious dynamic about her, and you can see how responsive and just how she really just brings everybody together. And she was a big reason why the Sky won the championship last season. She might not have put up the numbers that some people expected or wanted her to. She might not even put up the numbers that she wanted to herself, but in that respect, as far as the dynamic she brought to the team and being just so fun-loving and always loose, bringing even a youthful version of Candace Parker out every opportunity she had, she was just an invaluable piece. So I'm glad she was able to be at peace enough to bring this story to the forefront, and for her to have done so and been able to do so after winning the championship as well. I just wish the best for her. My respect grew for her even more, and I hope the future has more successes awaiting her.
Definitely. Yeah, this is, like I say, really amazing story. Tough thing to deal with, and really shows the heart of a premier athlete like that, you know, and that's definitely what Diamond is, you know, to be able to get over all that. So yeah, definitely share your thoughts there, Stephen. Wish the best for her. And she has that's one thing I was thinking too, like, you know, her getting that title and being a part of that team is always going to endear her to folks here in Chicago. So you know, she has that as a home, you know, as a home in a lot of ways, and you know, whatever success she has on elsewhere in the league, you know, that's you know, she'll still have that place of home here in Chicago. So it's good for her, you know, and she has that history that she was a part of as well. So, but I guess before, like I said, before we do wrap up, I'm saying we're not going. I'm not kicking you off, Subria. I'm just wrapping up the show as a whole. But speak a bit about speak a bit more about, you know, grow the game, and I know you had an after party event at you know, after Friday's game, and apparently you planned more throughout the. Wasn't able to make the last one, but I know Chris was there and you know, representing for us. So hopefully I can make you know, one of y'all future events. But you know, what are you looking to do along those ends as far as keeping up awareness and, you know, like I said, advocating and just doing things that are maybe fun, as well as you know, getting people you know, involved with women's sports and women's basketball?
Yeah, so definitely looking to kind of get that fellowship going, just with everyone to be able to take that from the game and meet up outside of that. So although we sell tickets for all the Sky home games, so anybody can go on growgamw.com right now and click the ticket link, and they can get single game tickets for any of our games. But we've chosen a game, and that schedule is going to come out this week. We've chosen a game for at least like once a month to do something special. So like on the Aces game, it's going to be like sneaker Saturday. So we want everybody to wear their best shoes. We're going to have partners like Foot Locker involved, and we're going to do some nice giveaways. I always try to do some giveaways and have an event afterwards. And like Brittany Sykes came to the one against LA, trying to always get a player involved to kind of like really show what it means to grow the game. And I think with women's sports, a lot of that comes from just being accessible and having those face-to-face interactions with fans, doing, like I said, more giveaways with jerseys this time, since that was like a big thing last season. We just wanted to give more people opportunity to get autographed items and jerseys, trying to just get more partners involved. And we're going to do a lot of more crossover games this year. So we'll have a Red Stars night at one of the Sky games, and then with the Red Stars. So then we're going to have a Chicago Sky night at a Red Stars game. And then in the off season, we work with the Paul women's basketball team, and we have a hometown hero in Anissa Morrow. Absolutely love Anissa. I will like be the president of her fan club, and I will scream her name throughout all of Chicago. And just, you know, obviously having Allie as the face of DePaul and playing in Wintrust. So we're gonna have a DePaul day there as well, and just try to bridge that gap, because I mean, one, not just the fact that I don't think people or the league or teams capitalize enough off of those college connections, because when you look at the Final Four, March Madness, those arenas are amazing. Like, they're packed out, and we have to find a way to keep that going and carry that on into the WNBA, but also just knowing that people love women's sports. Like Angel City is the new soccer team for the National Women's Soccer League. They just had a huge turnout for their first game. And so seeing the Red Stars fans and the Sky fans, a lot of us talk on Twitter anyway, so why not try and figure out how to bridge that gap there as well? So just trying to think outside the box, get more teams involved, get more partners involved, and get more players involved is really what we're trying to focus on this season.
Now, you're very much on, you know, you're working the movement pretty much at a grassroots level at the moment. Mm-hmm. But, you know, looking at the bigger, at a bigger picture, you know, when it comes to the big, you know, how to, get more money into the league as a whole to allow it to allow it so that there isn't so many obvious disparities between the league and between the WNBA and other leagues, men's leagues in general, but definitely, comparing it to the NBA, what do you is there anything specifically that you could recommend or diagnose as far as like just ways that those things can happen over the course of time, sooner rather than later, because it seems like the timeline is just is very elongated with the league, and there's like the talk that was talked this week about expansion, but maybe in a couple years, or maybe a couple teams in a couple years and stuff like that. What do you thought? How do you think that we can do things or see improvements, real improvements, in maybe in a more expedited fashion?
Yeah. Well, I will say that like the work that I've done with the Sky, I've been able to kind of have those conversations like with the owner of the Atlanta Dream. He's great. I'm so excited to see what he's doing, and just to be able to make that phone call and have someone listen to me and figure out how that works in Atlanta. To try and do things with the Sparks and Dallas Wings. So just taking it to the team level, but then I've also been able to have a conversation with someone who works for the WNBA. So the fact that like they know, they're taking notice, they know who I am, they know what I'm doing, and having those conversations to see what that looks like at all the team levels, at the league level. I think it also starts with the players. Like, I think that the WNBA has a bad habit of not really asking the players what they want, and then I think the players have a really bad habit of not saying what they want. So like recently we've seen a lot of comments about this new CBA, well, about wanting or needing a new CBA, about how it's going to affect their overseas play because they have to be there at training camp, and there's all these different things, and they don't want to fly on commercial flights. They want to fly private, and that's why like Natasha Cloud is alluding to why she's not playing tonight, because it's still a pandemic and they flew commercial, and just those things. I'm just trying to have conversations with them to say, okay, well, I don't know if you know this, but like you all are responsible for your CBA. So like don't tell Twitter, tell them. Like just at that level. Like I just think all of this starts when everybody's able to communicate, and that means saying what you want and saying what you mean, and then meaning what you say, and having the person that you're talking to hear that. Because I think all the time, like fans are like, we want X, Y, and Z. And then the league will come out, hey, everybody, guess what? We've got 1, 2, and 3. And we're all just like, but we said X, Y, and Z. So I think once people start listening to each other and working together, that's going to be the start of everything. Because like right now, I don't think expansion of teams is the best answer. With more teams, maybe the roster, like let's start there. So I think maybe we need to take a step back. Like just remember that it's only been 25 years and see what we can actually do, because I don't want them to rush it. And we like every week we're complaining about new things on WNBA Twitter. Let's not, add 2 more or 4 more teams into that mix. Like let's figure it out now. Talk to people who are grassroots like me, talk to the players, and then we can have a conversation about that. Because if the Aces have a hard time getting to, let's say, Connecticut, I don't know how they think anyone from a Toronto team is going to be able to get to like Chicago. So that's where I think they need to start.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you brought up the phrase WNBA Twitter in their last talk there, because that's the last thing I kind of want to get into in a general sense. I actually want to. It makes me think about comparing WNBA Twitter to NBA Twitter, which the NBA Twitter can be very. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, but I put on the rundown that it's the playoffs. It may not be meant to be enjoyed, and I'm talking about the NBA playoffs. because every discussion that I kind of see on NBA Twitter, it sort of stems from something, some sort of dissatisfaction with something. Dissatisfaction with referees and their calls, dissatisfaction with awards and who they're giving to, and awards being based on the regular season and not the postseason or vice whatever. Teams that are not playing particularly well, injuries, being left without key players at key times, and like there was a game last night between Memphis and Golden State that it was a very competitive game, but it wasn't very satisfying to look at. And I just wondered, like, it just sort of just came to me that's what I want to focus on in general for this last subject. But before going into that, I just Chris and Subria, definitely you factor into WNBA Twitter quite a bit, and I'm guessing you're exposed a lot to NBA Twitter as well. I don't know how much you guys really delve into it, but do you see any difference between the two entities as they really interact with each other and sort of promote and interact with the game that they're obsessed with?
If I see a difference, I think there's the NBA Twitter is kind of given towards not just statistics, because people watch and there's breakdowns of sequences and actions and plays, but I think there's more analytics type people who have a greater reach on NBA Twitter, so to speak. And that's not to say that there aren't those people on WNBA Twitter. Nikias Duncan is a numbers guy, and he's a very, very good. Everybody across the timeline and her hoop stats specifically go towards putting the numbers up so that you can see a deeper level of each player and each team and what makes them good, bad, or otherwise. But if I've seen anything in terms of a difference, I think it's that there's more discourse on the NBA side of things about numbers, which numbers mean, which numbers are useless, stats. And on WNBA side, there is that, but it's within the larger context of the game as a medium, I think, because that is part of the WNBA. The game is a medium to a larger end a lot of the time, like we saw in 2020, like we're seeing in 2021. I haven't been able to ask anybody their thoughts on the Supreme Court news, but you can believe I'm asking somebody about that the next time I'm in the interview room, because I don't want it to be a targeted question, but it's important, and I know that there has to be some discourse on it, and I'm interested to see what that is. So I think in NBA Twitter, you had that 2020 season where cats were talking about activism, and now we're back to talking about what Marcus Smart's hair looks like and different things like that. It's really hard to parse.
That makes a lot of sense, Chris, because I think attitudinally, I would expect, I'm not as ingratiated with WNBA Twitter as y'all are, but with NBA, so much with NBA Twitter, so much of it boils down to, like you say, getting off jokes and tearing down storylines or enhancing storylines, and there's a lot of stand-up that's involved with players and teams, and it's just toxicity in general. It takes a lot of forms in NBA Twitter, and I wouldn't expect that as much in WNBA Twitter. Maybe I'm wrong, but
there's toxicity still. It's still Twitter.
Yeah, of course. It's Twitter, but like you said, there's the medium that's involved. There's I would think with those who follow and really support the WNBA, there's more of a mission statement that's involved, more of focus on advancement as opposed to sort of tearing down things, and I don't know. What Subria, you gave me a look there. What feel free to jump in.
Okay. Yeah. So I think in theory, like sure, like maybe there's an attitude with the WNBA of like give grace and we have to try extra hard to elevate the game and get it to be more respected. But I mean, you do have people on WNBA Twitter who, I mean, there's toxicity everywhere. Unfortunately, like it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And then to a certain extent, I also think that might be to the WNBA's detriment. Like, there are unfortunate situations that have happened, like last year with a physical altercation that occurred with a player outside of the court, but just it was like a big thing, and I don't think there was much investigating with it. The same way of like I just saw like last week somebody was talking about we never got answers about the Kennedy Carter situation. I said, okay, well, you're a journalist. Did anybody ask? Nobody could tell me like, yes, I asked about this situation and I either was given a runaround or I just wasn't able to find anything. Nobody did the work, because I know for a fact there are some individuals at the team level and just some teams who unfortunately take things personally. And I think maybe they understand that if I get to the scoop, even though it's the truth, even though it's the facts, then maybe they won't let me into, they won't approve my media credential next week, because everybody is just trying to be so positive all the time. And that's just not what sports are. Like, I mean, obviously, I don't want anything to get out of hand, but I like a little spice. I like, a little drama here and there. I think sports are drama. Like, to me, that's part of entertainment, right? You need drama. So I don't know. Maybe it's like I think NBA Twitter is probably on one end of the spectrum, and then WNBA Twitter is on the other end, and we both need to just find somewhere in the middle.
That's a very good point that you bring up too about sometimes you need the spice, sometimes you need the drama, and that was something that I kind of noticed earlier this year when you had like about a week or so where the WNBA was getting in the mix quite a bit with the free agency and stuff. And this was around the time of the Super Bowl and everything was going on. And, of course, the NBA trade deadline was near that time too. And at the same time, WNBA was getting a lot of play on my timeline and everything like that. And I think that was a good thing to see. That was an encouraging thing to see where, every major sport, they have sort of a 24-hour news cycle and definitely a 12-month news cycle that they can play into off season as well as their ongoing season. And that's where you can tell that we're really obsessed with stuff when we talk about it during this downtime. And if the WNBA can play into that and get headlines and get trending topics in February and in January as well as June and July or August, that's definitely got to be an encouraging thing for the sport.
I agree.
I think one thing that I want to get Subria's take on this, I know it's talking about spice is going to be there. There's got to be, even for the China trial that they had with the draft show this year, it was well below expectations and what could have been. So a lot of that's on the network, but so whoever is running the network, if they want to be the main focal point for WNBA games content, then they've got to put the product out there that really holds people's attention. Because that's another thing basketball fans in general, I say in general, are a discerning bunch. We watch this game that is full of little intricate things that come to a product, to a culmination. So I think we can see when the max effort isn't being put in and is being put in, depending on who it is. And that goes with the production of it too. So you got this day and age. It's not 1947 when the NBA started. TV is out there. Internet is out there. All these different ways to broadcast and produce games are out there. But the people producing the actual thing have to be better. They just got to be better. Subria, I don't want to take the time away just for you to weigh in on that, because I didn't see anything that you necessarily had to say about the draft show, because partially I was isolated with COVID too. But I'd be very interested to hear what you thought about it.
We actually also were like halfway. We were taping like the first half, like we missed the first half because we were on like the CHGO.
Yeah, that's right.
So I didn't even get a chance to really watch it. But from what I've gathered, I mean, obviously the problem is like, well, why is it only an hour? Like every other draft show, it's so long. You are interviewing the person's neighbor's cousin, sister, and like you just get into their whole life story. But with the W, it's like, okay, next, like, you know, you still have Destiny Henderson on the screen, and you've called like 3 other people. So that's number one. I know that there were a lot of conversations happening about just like, it was more so like fashion, I guess. Again, I didn't get a chance to really see it, but just the orange carpet, and they were talking about, you know, what people were wearing and stuff like that. And I think they have to figure out a way to, you know, make it about basketball and keep it about basketball, but like the balance of kind of going outside of that. Because I think, again, it's like W fans and the community has overcompensate a little bit. And you don't want to, like, you know, people are like, well, you don't want to make it like too girly, because then, like, you know, people won't respect it as a sport. And just figuring out what that is. And I just think, like I've said it earlier today or yesterday, I just think that the W needs to find partners who actually like the league. Once we start there, and maybe then we can get what we deserve and grow from there. But as long as you keep like going to the same people who clearly do not care and are not trying to elevate or, you know, take the league to the next level, we're just going to keep running into the same problems.
True enough.
Well, yeah, definitely got a lot more work to do, a lot of things to get over. But in the meantime, you know, we're going to kick it and definitely try to follow the example of people like you, Subria. Thank you very much for coming on with us and kicking it with us.
Of course.
We really appreciate you. We hope to get you back on soon when you're back in town.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And then I promise I won't be in the car.
Hey, good. Steven does it all the time, so you know we get used to it. It's cool. If you got to ride around, you know, next time, you know. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do. We'll any way we can get you on in the future. We'll be appreciative of it.
Of course.
Do you have a date for the next post game pressure?
I don't remember which game is next. I don't know if the Aces game is the next game. I will have to go back and look. But like it'll be on the schedule. Like I'm trying to get this week, but it'll definitely be next month, probably.
But tell everybody how to follow you and grow the game so that
sure.
you know, they can maybe get that information in real time whenever it comes out.
Yes, and you can always follow Grow the Game on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Everything is at Grow the Game W, and our website is www.growthegamew.com.
Okay, and of course you're doing Chicago Sky podcast with CHGO. When do you guys put those out typically?
They're every Monday at 5:30 Central Time.
Okay, all right. Definitely appreciate you. Thanks again for showing love to Chris, and you know, glad to make you part of our Runnin family as well. Like I said, we definitely want to get you involved with you know, our WNBA coverage going forward. You know, you definitely add a lot to it.
Well, thank you. Always happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, and I can't wait to come back.
Cool. Steve and Chris, y'all got anything to add before we wrap up?
Support the rights of support reproductive rights for everybody. Fight this upcoming decision wherever you can. Follow me on Twitter at Quandary Kitten, KWANDARY Kitten, and the Skyhook Pod at the Skyhook Pod.
Yes, sir.
You can follow me at StayTrueS.3 on Twitter. wrapping up this NBA playoff coverage, doing the same thing, getting ready to get going with the WNBA coverage exclusively with the Sky, but talking about the W as a whole. I'll be having a lot of content coming out from both entities moving forward, and Subria, appreciate your conversations. I like the work that you and what's your co-host name again?
Oh, Janice.
Janice, right? Yeah, you and Janice. I like the work that you guys are doing on this new platform with CHGO. Looking forward to the work that you guys are coming out in the future.
Thank you.
And shout out to everybody over there at CHGO, and definitely shout out to everybody here at WARR Media, at WARR Media on Twitter, on YouTube, Facebook, IG. You can follow us on all those platforms. WARR on Anchor, our podcast distribution through Anchor.fm. We are on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. So if you're on if you like to listen to podcasts, especially on Apple, if you can rate us, give us a good rating. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You get our live streams like this one. Get advance notice whenever we go live, and chop it up with us if you can. You're always welcome to chat with us on our comment section and everything. And yeah, that's it for now. We'll be back probably next week with a new show, getting deeper into the NBA conference finals. We'll be pretty much set up with those matchups by then. Have our other guys on as well. Shout out to those fellas, Drew and Josh and Gabe. And yeah, in the meantime, y'all keep bouncing and keep supporting women's sports. We out.